Hi, I'm going to give you an introductory video here to section 1.2 out of the Big Ideas Algebra textbook. What we're going to involve here is solving a bunch of different types of multi-step linear equations with variables on one side. So by the time you get through this or through this section, I want you to be able to solve a lot of these types of equations. The first type here, or the first thing I want to make mention of, is when we started by solving simple equations, we were inverting operations. And by inverting operations, I mean if it was addition, we'd use subtraction. If it was multiplication, we'd use division. Well, when we get to multi-step equations, you got to decide between wanting to divide first or subtract first. And my argument is, or just the mathematical justification here is when we solve multi-step equations, we invert the order of operations. So the order of operations is usually, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, so we would do parentheses first, then so on and so forth. We're going to do that in the exact opposite order here. So that's a long-winded way of saying the first step we're going to do here in number one is to subtract 3 and get negative 2n equals 6. Then divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and get n equals negative 3. All right, here, don't get confused by the equality property that puts 21 on the opposite side, but we're going to choose to do the addition first because that's the lowest end of the order of operations. From there, this is 1/2 times c, so divide by 1/2, divide by 1/2, and you're going to get negative 20 equals c. Okay, the other part of this lesson, besides just knowing to invert the order of operations, is to use some cleanup tools. Our two biggest cleanup tools are going to be combining like terms and distribution. This problem, this number 3, is focusing on combining like terms. Combining like terms means there are, I see to the left-hand side here, I see 1, 2, 3 terms, right? The two that are alike have the same variable with the same exponent. So we can put these two together. When we combine like terms, we are not inverting the operation at all. We're just pushing them together. We're combining them. So those two become negative 12x, then plus 12 equals 18. From there, we get to solve like the previous two problems. Invert the order of operations, then invert the operation itself. Divide to invert the multiplication deal. And we'll get x equals a negative 1/2. I would prefer an simplified fraction form. All right, now let's really get into the nitty-gritty. Number 4 is going to start making use of the distributive property for cleaning up. So what you really need to notice is the 3, and then next to the parentheses and in between this 3, there's no operation there. When there's no operation, the multiplication is implied. So we go 3 times x. This is a cleanup tool. Notice it only multiplied to both things inside the parentheses. From there, we're going to use another cleanup tool, combine like terms. Constants can always be put together. From there, we just keep solving out just like we know how. I'll leave number 5 for your practice for the sake of brevity. So I'm going to move on to number 6. Number 6 here has some of the same issues, just a little bit of different distribution. So -2 times here, -2 times here. The biggest thing you got to notice when you do this distribution, yes, this is -2y, but then you got to see the -2 times the whole -4 and how that becomes +8. Dropping that negative is a very common mistake to make in an algebra class. All right. From there, we can combine like terms, our two like terms being the y terms. And we'll subtract the 8 over. We'll get 5 equals y. All right. Again, I'll probably leave 7 for u, and I'll also leave 8. All right. The last one I'll do on this slide is going to be number 9. So what we have here, just double the pleasure, double the fun. We're going to double the distribution property. So we're going to 5 times 3 and 5 times -x. Get 15 minus 5x plus 2 times 3 plus 2 times -x and get plus 6 minus 2x equals 14. From there, we're going to combine some like terms of the x's and get -7x. And we're also going to get 15 and 6, which is 21. Now we're ready to solve a two-step equation. -21 minus 21. We get -7x equals -7. Divide by -7. Divide by -7. X equal to 1. All right. Okay, now we'll apply it to a word problem or two and be on our way. The formula D equals 1/2 N plus 26 relates to the nozzle pressure N in pounds per square inch of a fire hose and the maximum horizontal distance the water reaches D in feet. How much pressure is needed to reach a fire 50 feet away? So D, water, the horizontal distance the water reaches is D. That definition is important because we're wondering about the pressure. We're wondering about the pressure. But we know that the distance is 50 feet. So I'm going to put 50. I'm going to make use of this right here. 50 equal to 1/2 N plus 26 and start to solve. Invert the order of operations. Divide by 1/2. Divide by 1/2 and get 48 equal to N. We should probably know that that's pounds per square inch, but I think the label of the N would cover us for labeling purposes. Okay, last slide. You have 96 feet of fencing to enclose a rectangular pen for your dog. To provide sufficient running space for your dog to exercise, the pen should be 3 times as long as it is wide. Find the dimensions. I'm going to say x equals width distance. When I mean width distance, I mean the wide term. So if we think about it right here, right, this is x, right? This is x. 3 times as wide, so 3 times x gives us our length, right? The reason you see me writing on all 4 sides of our rectangular pen is because when we're using 96 feet, we're using 96 feet of fence to go all the way around this rectangular pen. That, in mathematical terms, is a perimeter. So to find perimeter, we're going to go x plus 3x plus x plus 3x and set it equal to 96. From there, if we combine all our like terms, 4x, 5x, 8x equals 96, we'll go 96 divided by 8. Divide both sides by 8 and get x equal to 12 feet. Now, we're not finished just by solving for a single variable because it says find the dimensions of the pen. When we solved for x, all we solved for was the width distance. So right now we know it's 12 feet by something. If we use the definition of the length of our thing, if we go 3 times 12 and get 36, now we know it's by 36 feet. All right? Okay. I hope that this is sufficient to get you started into the chapter section 1.2 problems and skill sets. I'll see you in the next video.